Here is the update on the interview I just had. So I walk in and this older guy is at a desk and I go, "Hi, I'm full name. I'm here for the interview." And he goes, "Your full name?" And I go, "Yep, that's me." He seemed a little disappointed for some reason, but I was trying to keep it cheerful. Turns out all of a sudden he actually hired someone and had this whole elaborate backstory for this person that he supposedly just hired and is giving a try. But if that elaborate, totally real person doesn't work out, guess who's getting a call? That's right, me. That's totally gonna happen when this very real person doesn't work out.
Oh, trans activists have this bad habit of lying, but let's just imagine that this is true for a second. No matter what type of job it was, I think it's pretty fair not to hire you because of the way you look. Look at you! Could you have any more facial piercings? Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. If you're applying for a job where you have to work with customers, you can't look like this. I really can't elaborate, I just look at you and I'm like, no, you're not gonna work in my store. If I had one. Maybe the guy who wouldn't hire you knows what those piercings represent. I don't even know you, but if you're a trans activist, I know what you believe in. That you support children transitioning, that you support men being in women's locker rooms, sports, and prisons. If you call yourself a trans activist, I don't even need to see your profile and listen to what you actually believe in. I know it already. I'm a psychic. I know it's usually bad to judge people based on how they look, but can you blame me? It's not my fault it's trans activist uniforms.
So I'm job searching right now, and I came out as trans while I was working at my last job. So this is my first time applying for jobs as a man, and of course I don't really have anywhere on my application that I'm a trans man. Something's happening. I keep getting these emails requesting that I apply for jobs. Like, I keep getting these emails that say, "We saw your resume and we think you'd be a great fit based on your experience." That had never happened to me applying to jobs before. It just really puts things into perspective. It didn't happen when I was applying for jobs as a cis woman, and my resume hasn't changed, except, like, having one more job on it. So that's been kind of blowing my mind.
So something has changed. You had a job in the meantime. But do you know what hasn't changed? Your gender, honey. You're still a woman. What was the job? Because you can't claim it's not relevant that you've had a job since your last resume. To the confused people watching, she thinks that because she's now a man, she gets more job offers. Someone wrote in the comments, "Your male privilege kicked in, congrats, king." How delulu are these people? Just because you claim to be the opposite sex doesn't mean that you suddenly are it. And it definitely doesn't mean that society will treat you or even see you as the opposite sex. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you're not a new person. Are you aware that you still look and sound like a woman? Because sometimes I'm not sure if these people actually are delusional, believe they look like the opposite sex, or if they're just faking it and they're focusing on getting people to obey them. It could be both, but I'm not sure. You cannot experience male privilege because you're not a man. Maybe you experience fake trans privilege. Maybe you get so many job offers because you're trans. You sure look like the new definition of trans. So maybe people want to hire you due to diversity and inclusion.
I'm gonna share a few tips that I have for applying for jobs when you're trans. Slim pickings out here, okay?
What do you mean? Why is it hard for trans people to get a job?
One thing I do is just like search companies that are queer and trans friendly in the area. A lot of times you can find reviews from previous employees that were queer or trans, or you can find reviews from like their customers.
Are we like a different type of species or something? Maybe I shouldn't say we because the trans community, the trans activism community, is full of fake trans people, and I'm not a fake trans person, so why can't trans people just apply for normal jobs? Why apply for jobs where trans people have worked there before? What's that going to say about the job? I thought we were all different. Aren't we all different? Or are all trans people the same?
Another thing that's really helpful is to get invested in the local queer and trans community. A lot of finding a job for me has just been making queer and trans friends and seeing where they work.
What is a local queer and trans community? I feel like I live on a different planet than these guys. Maybe my haters are right. I am ignorant, and I am the weird one for living in the real world as a trans person. The reason why I live such a great life today is because I live in the real world. The people I interact with can be straight, gay, trans, black, white, left, right. I do not care what people identify as, what people are. I don't need to create my own little world in order to be happy. How can anyone believe that it will make you happy to not be a part of society? I just don't get it.
Once you're kind of in the community more, you have more connections and it's a lot easier to figure out which places are actually open-minded.
It sounds like you're part of a cult, which, I mean, how about you try to be more open-minded? Isn't that a better advice to give other people like you? My personal opinion is if you want to live a happy life, you must remember that mutual respect is key. I live an amazing life today. I haven't really experienced getting harassed, bullied in real life. I mean, of course, online, it's crazy, but I always have great interaction with people in the real world because I'm choosing to be open-minded. I do not walk around believing that everyone is against me and they have to prove they're not transphobic. I always assume that no one I interact with are transphobic. Maybe some people are. I've met one person, actually in the States, in New York. So I've met one transphobic person out of thousands of people. And do you know how I treated the guy? I was still polite and I still smiled. And just because he wanted to convert me or whatever, doesn't mean I should yell at him and verbally abuse him or something. I chose to say, have a nice day and talk to somebody else. Oh my god, life is so simple. I will still be equally as open-minded every single time I talk to a new person. Just because you might risk talking to disrespectful people, people who are intolerant, doesn't mean you should never be open-minded. You might be a minority, but that doesn't always equal being oppressed, or you need to act like a victim kind of thing. I would actually argue if companies try to prove that they're open-minded, they're most likely not. Because what does that typically mean? On their websites, they might have an Asian man, a black trans woman, a disabled they, them. Does that mean they're open-minded for hiring those people? We don't know. As we all know, true and real diversity is diversity of thought, not diversity of skin color, gender identity. What I'm trying to say is you can't know if companies are open-minded, are trans-friendly. By using common sense, you just have to assume that they are trans-friendly, that they're not gonna hurt you or traumatize you or be anti this and that. You just have to assume that they're normal people and you're gonna have a pretty normal experience working in their companies.
I recently started asking people in my interviews to talk about the work climate, whether there are a lot of queer and trans people working there, if there's not, like how people are generally around homophobia and transphobia. If you don't get a clear answer about it, the way that they answer will say a lot. If the interviewer is uncomfortable by your question, that says a lot in itself.
It does. Yeah, if the interviewer thinks it's a normal question to ask, that says a lot too. And that's where I would say run. Unfortunately today, homophobia and transphobia are ideological terms. So you normal people out there would usually be against homophobia and transphobia, but due to activists changing the definitions, you're most likely homophobic and transphobic. Being homophobic, transphobic, let's just use transphobic, means that you're against children transitioning, you're against calling people they and them because you don't believe in non-binary, you don't support men being in women's spaces, and the list goes on and on. Being transphobic today means that you're a good person. It's a good thing to be it. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not the one changing the definition here. To ask how do you deal with transphobia and homophobia is so effing stupid. It's a passive-aggressive question. Are you asking this question because you want to know how you're gonna get treated if working there? The audacity for people like you to be so passive-aggressive before getting the job. So listen, I just wanna know, how are you gonna treat me? Me. Are you gonna respect my pronouns? Zimzer? Trans activists act like spoiled brats, and they don't want to do anything to earn any respect, affirmation, and so on. They're not planning on respecting the people they interact with, because why should they? They're trans. They literally think it's an argument. They think they get a free pass just because they claim to be something that they're not. Maybe I don't need to clarify this, but I have never had any issues as a transsexual, applying for jobs, getting jobs, and I've never experienced transphobia at my workplace. And you can wonder why that is. Maybe it's because I don't demand anything from anyone. I know how to act like a normal human being in public. I know how to be, professional. I don't identify as trans. I don't make trans my entire personality. I don't identify as anything. I can tell you what I am. I'm a gender dysphoric biological female living my life as a man. But I'm a human being first, not trans. And the last thing I want to say is, going through a medical gender transition is personal. You're doing it for yourself due to your own mental health issues. Going through the transition has nothing to do with other people, and therefore I see no reason to include your workplace in your transition. I think it's something that people should leave at home. Thank you all for watching this video. If you want to see more content like this, remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell. If you want to support me and my channel, you can become a member, or I have my PayPal link in the description down below. Remember to follow me on social media. I love you and I cannot wait to see you in the comments. Peace out.